Right, here's an interesting example of why they say in Piper, get it done within 1 or 2 moves. So those that were at a very high level with this stuff that would use it or implement it in a criminal sense for nefarious means on the streets of the Cape Flats, and then with refinement in the prisons, is nothing new to criminal culture. So Piper as a name is the South African example of the criminal use of a knife. But if you look at the Mexican use of the knife, the Russian method of a knife, the South American use of a knife, the way they use it in penitentiaries, the way they use it in any prison in Europe, in any prison in the US, the way blades are used in nefarious ways by criminal cultures. Every culture separated by many years and many miles has its own Piper, right? And the commonality that you find is that the majority of the attacks are done out of an ambush via deception. In terms of the Piper method, which is interesting, rather than any type of frenzied and relentless assault, it's premeditated and calculated, and they will target. And if there is an opportunity to strike first from a static point of view, it's not a dynamic moving struggle yet, or at all if it's out of ambush, then accuracy is the primary, right? So bearing in mind you're dealing with people that could do as much damage as they want in as minimal time frame as they want to as limited damage as they want. So if they wanted to just warn you, they had the skill and the accuracy to miss major organs in order just to wound you, to warn you. Conversely, if they wanted you dead with the first shot, you'd be dead with the first shot. But what they understood was, in terms of the accuracy, is that if you stab, the body moves. It responds, cause, effect. Hands come up, body shifts. If you continue to stab now, you're not going to be on your previous target trajectory because the subject's no longer static. So the presence of mind was there that would initially make the first strike with accuracy if that was enough, because that was what was needed, that was it done. If not, they knew that the subject would respond, and they would pause momentarily till the subject had stopped moving, went back to stillness because now they're dealing with the shock of what's just happened, before they would target and stab again. Hugely predatory, hugely. So, obviously understanding this kind of way in which the modus operandi works within with this kind of mind is very, very useful. It's very useful from 2 factors: to know what you might face and to possibly counter the same with the same tactics. So as an example, and obviously this comes from the research, from the founder. I'm talking to Nigel February, the founder of Piper, and all of this information comes first hand to him from those that have understood, those that did it. The difference is they knew with this information passed down, this prison knowledge passed around through the specific ranks, that if you do this, you get that result. If you do that, you get this result. They didn't scientifically know necessarily the whys and hows of what they did was effective. They simply knew that if I do that, I'll get this result the majority of the time. When you add a martial artist's mind to that did a deep, in-depth study scientifically into the whys and the hows, and then he gives you the conclusions, well, it doesn't get much better than that, then knowing your enemy. And of course you need to know your enemy and know yourself. Right? If you want to deal with a virus to become the antivirus, then you need to get inoculated and learn what they do. So this would simply be an example of that. So if the subject was static, let's say, and the tool was hidden and it was a walk-by assassination, because we're talking Piper, then the neck would be targeted specifically with a shot. Accuracy would be looked for, and if they wanted to get it spot on, they would have got it spot on. Conversely, if they wanted to just nick or create a wound, a flesh wound, with just the tip of the tool, they could do that, and any variable degree in between. But one example that Nigel was telling me about was that the knife would be implemented, and they may do this kind of shimmer motion to one corner of the eye across the eye, which is going to reliably turn the subject around. The subject is most definitely going to move. But after he's moved, there's going to be this static moment where that person is trying to overcome the shock of what's just happened. And that now leaves the next target totally static. So rather than stab, 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 it would be a calculation. Move, then select target before stabbing again. Visually reference target. So of course you're working on a dummy. It's not going to give you the energy. But let's say the next stab was wanted. If the person could get the next stab, then the accuracy was there to do it first shot. But if they knew that the subject would move, and there might be a necessity to follow up 2 strikes, no more than 2 would be the norm, 3 at the most. And if he's done that, shimmering right across the eye, subject's energy's going this way, flat down. And there'll be a momentary pause, then the neck or the heart under the armpit, axillary artery, lung would be the next target. So the motion is simple, it's just here, 1, 2, the slight pause to reorientate target before the next shot was thrown. It's an indication of predatory premeditation and calm cognitive under deadly force pressure to select a target, because selecting a target with accuracy is a decision-making process. And if somebody is about to take her life, adrenaline is present. So it just shows you how seasoned such ilk are. Like I said, there's every version of Piper in every culture. That kind of deceptive criminality, cool-headed premeditation is what you're up against. So you need to know it. You need to know it so you don't get beaten by it. Right? So just a simple example again is shimmer right across the corner of the eye so the head turns. Arms will either come up here, there's a gap, or the side target's available. Next target's taken with pinpoint accuracy. This is the concept of, or behind, you finish it in one or two movements, as opposed to prison style grab and stab everywhere, which of course is going to have the end result, but it's messy, a lot of blood transference, etc., etc. Clinical assassination method that comes from the way that some of these guys would operate. And you see it also in Russia, South America, Mexico. This kind of mastery of not only of the blade, of the tool, but also of the tactics in terms of hunting, stalking their prey sense. I put it to you, in this day and age, that's a need to know for the protector type archetype that should be learning to fight on all levels, unarmed, pointing edge weapons, impact weapons, learn how to shoot, learn how to choose your environment, learn how to use any improvised tool of opportunity that has weapon attributes, understand tactics, and understand there'll be a need for creating the right mentality, and that comes from understanding what you're dealing with. So just an example, that's a conclusion of a lesson that I recently had with Nigel in February. We were talking about such stuff. I like to go into the whys and hows. Peace.